Hello again. This is our fifth episode of iGaming Accent, brought to you by SBC Eurasia. I'm one and only host. I don't know why, because there are other hosts, but they are not hosting this one. My name is Vakho, and today I'm joined by a pretty interesting person called Glenn, who is our guest today. He has wonderful experience, and we have crossed over, and he shared wonderful insight with me, and I hope he will open up the doors behind the curtains and tell us lots of things regarding our industry, what's happening there, all the different verticals he worked with, all the insights that you might be interested in. So welcome, Glenn. It's a pleasure of having you here today.
Thank you. Thanks a lot for having me here as well. It's a great honor.
Great. By the way, I'm always starting with a thing that it was funny story for me. For example, how I got into the industry. I think that I've never told about that during the podcast, and I think this will be the good idea to tell it today. It was just because of I was playing when I was in student years. I was playing poker too much, and this was when the poker was picking up in my country, and this was like a first beginning. I was, let's say, legal age, just a bit early of the legal age, and that experience was something that was coming with me, and I've never thought about iGaming. But when I was 24 years old, the notification popped up, and there was like, we are looking for poker marketing manager, and I was marketing manager, and I said, wow, my passion of the game, my passion of the profession, why shouldn't we mix it? I went to the interview, and it was funny because I went on a Thursday and I had offer with the proposal on Monday. And they even said, sorry that we didn't send it on Friday because we need you as soon as possible. At the same time, I'm always interested. How did you end up in this industry?
Well, actually, you know what? It's a very similar story to yours there. First of all, I was 24 as well. Secondly, just like you managed to mix poker with marketing. I had the same thing. I used to, I did enjoy betting on sports. I love sports, absolutely love sports, especially, football and basketball and tennis and so on and so forth. Basically, as you know, like over 20 years ago, the industry of gaming came to Malta. And when this industry came to Malta, there were a lot of opportunities. So for me, I was saying, look, I love sports. I love obviously some good sports betting. So it was the perfect match. And I applied, to be a sports trader with an operator.
Okay, interesting to start from there. So imagine I was playing poker and I started with poker and you were playing on sports and you started from the sports. By the way, I have to ask, which is your favorite team?
Juventus.
Juventus, okay, that's interesting.
We did not have a great season, but at least on last Saturday we had a good joy for those who sided with Juve.
Okay. From my point of view, they're rebranding and they are repositioning as the new generation of the club, and all their updates and all their communication with their fans was absolutely spot on. From my point of view, I remember that it came with all the first interactions with them. Lots of people didn't like it, but it's setting in such a good way, respecting the legacy and also praying for the future at the same time. So Juventus works for me from marketing perspective every day, on any day.
By the way, hopefully they work out as well in the results department, not just marketing.
Yeah, let's hope for the future season. You started from the trading, right? What was the trading like in those years? You said 20 years ago, and I remember that 20 years ago I was too young to even know anything. So what was happening there? And it was first time that iGaming came to Malta, right?
Yes, it was in those years that iGaming came to Malta. Obviously, opportunities for people wanting something different, and definitely I thought it was the right direction even for me. With regards to trading, okay, so it's not as it is today. Back then it was all about, manual work. When I say manual work, we had, especially at the time, the new operators were still building up their platforms and their websites. So everything needed to be uploaded manually, like team by team, result by result, and so on and so forth. We didn't have, anything automated or third-party services that could do these things for us. So it was a very lengthy and arduous kind of job. However, on the flip side, I believe that that manual work we did, where we had to calculate probabilities and turn them into odds and understand how the margins work and all these sort of things helped us develop into a better traders, in the sense that back then we had to keep our mind constantly working to understand what the odds we're seeing, the amounts of money that are coming through, what changes need to be done to the actual odds, and so on and so forth. So nowadays obviously it's a bit easier, maybe because there's lots of ways. Even AI probably is helping out with the trading department, and that's something that actually might be interesting to discuss later on.
For sure, because I remember from the first days that it was, I don't know, chaotic. Whenever I entered the trading floor, there were like 10 monitors for each person running around screaming, like saying, should we accept this bet from this X user? Do you know what he wants? I don't know. And it was like mayhem there. But I've observed from my point of view as well that it got automated, it got much, much faster. And one of the main, let's say, differentiator for us became the thing that we could process everything under 5 seconds at the peak of the time. And that was such a big game changer for the big players that were using our platform that it broke every record when we achieved that. But that was not easy part, because like we had to make many integrations, we had to implement new systems, we had to upgrade our legacy software to new, and also it was really hard to communicate to the customers at the same time, because like we accept bets really fast. What does that mean? It was not like a benchmark at that time. And I think that I have not crossed over somebody that right now works within the trading sector, but you mentioned AI. So AI is helping them as well. In what way? Can you little bit give us more insights regarding that?
Well, obviously, I haven't been in the working with operators for quite some time now, but knowing how AI works and knowing how the trading department works, I feel that there's a good synergy there, in the sense that, like you said, decisions need to be taken in as quickly as possible. And obviously, having an AI automated tool that can actually take decisions based on the amount of money that the traders are seeing, based on the possible profit and loss for each match and the whole papers. It's all makes sense that if there's an AI which can calculate these things in just a split of a second and take the right decision, because that's the problem with traders. Obviously there's a human factor. So sometimes you might take a decision and say, hindsight, and say, damn it, I should have taken the other, I should have not done this, or I should have given him more, or should have done this. In hindsight, for a human being, obviously, it's different. Whereas with an eye, you can be sure that, in the split of a second, they can take the right decision.
Okay, good. Good to know. I think that I have to revisit that thing and also ask my ex-friends or ex-colleagues how they are managing it right now. But yeah.
I don't think there is at the moment so much, AI influence, but I'm pretty sure that eventually this
There will
will
be. There
be
will
very,
be.
very.
I've heard some stories regarding some of the big data providers using and utilizing it for the split decisions, like big ones, like big names in the industry, but I have not seen it firsthand, so it will be something interesting to explore. But at the same time, I know that you have seen all the verticals of iGaming, right? So you not only have been on B2C operations, you've been on B2B side as well and other side as well. So I think this is really crucial, because as somebody who is starting right now and is deciding where to start from, it will be really interesting to hear from you as well. So what are the differences from all the different verticals, and what are the different lessons that you have learned along the way?
Well, obviously, I was drawn, yes, into this industry, as I said, because of I love the whole operator side. Being a trader also meant constantly. I remember I used to have the TVs on 24/7, basically watching sports all day long. For someone who enjoys watching sports, being part of it, it's a great way how to be sort of part of the game. Also, I have always been someone, I always liked maths in school. So for me, being a trader, it involved a lot of maths. right? Using your brain to sort of do formulas, create algorithms that could help yourself or the company to be able to take better decisions or create better odds when preparing them for the market. So that's the operator side. But the other side, obviously, it's not just trading department. There are many other departments, as you may know. Some might be less interesting. For example, the usual like KYC or maybe even corporate legal stuff, or yes, HR as well, customer care. In fact, that's one really good place where I would recommend someone to kick off their career, customer care. Why? Because they get to speak to clients, but at the same time, they're also learning, about different aspects of their company. So they're learning about each and every department, how to answer, how they work, and this could lead them to become, understand better how the operations of the company work. Learning how the operations of the company work can obviously lead you to understand a bit about everything rather than be specific on one topic. Apart from working with operators, I also work with affiliates, and affiliates basically they're the people who bring traffic to the operators. Right now, one issue with or challenge, like you might say, for affiliates is that they want to send good traffic to operators, not just any kind of traffic. This is done through various ways. They can be done either through SEO blogs, where you try to organically send clients by ranking high on Google SERP. Obviously need to rank for the right keywords, because obviously if someone is looking for certain keywords that might not be helpful for the operators, you're sending that bad traffic there. Then you can do it either also through PPC. There are various ways, you can do it nowadays also through influencer marketing, which is becoming even more popular, especially in certain regions. So it all depends, on the traffic that you can send to the operators. If you send them good traffic, then the company is going to do really good and obviously get better rev share and even CPA deals, hybrid deals, and so on and so forth. I also worked with service providers and sense of from a digital marketing point of view, where a company on the other side of the affiliates, because affiliates are always looking for digital marketing agencies who offer services such as translations, copywriting,
content generation and everything,
yes,
right?
exactly. So I was on the other side now of the fence, and so I could understand how affiliates work and what affiliates actually want. So that helped me also from that angle. And now I'm with a platform provider. We offer a platform to operators. So it seems like I did the whole circle. I closed the
Yeah,
circle.
you are like next.
Exactly.
I think that for you, next stop should be an operation side one more time. So you will go back to the cycle one
Exactly.
more time.
No, but it's interesting, because then you get, okay, the fact that you're not specializing in one vertical, obviously, you sort of get to forget certain aspects or need to refreshers for certain things, but at least you have a good general overview and are able to, even when, discussing, when we meet up at conferences or during meetings or when, discussing with other departments, you have a good idea of what, each vertical is about.
I always think that have a general knowledge in something and not be an expertise is much better than being expertise only in one thing, because it narrows down your vision too much. And in iGaming, so many bolts are working together to run the engine on and keep the engine on. You have to understand all the aspects of different parts. And I think that your reference within the customer service always hit me, because there was a time that customer service representative was always on the places that you found it weird, because they were in the places where the promotions were planned, discussed, and executed, because they knew from the day zero what would be the questions coming for these promotions, what would be customers asking for it, what are customer pain points, and they were like inputting all those information back to the business. So they were like becoming small type of customer voice within the team inside of there. So I think that is really good way to start, and also going whole cycle is also good, because you have to know how whole business and how whole value chain of the iGaming works, and that really helps you just to be curious as well.
Exactly. In fact, I can say I can relate it to myself. I mean, when I was just in the trading department, I only knew that aspect of the industry. And now, like we're saying, if everything is going to become, or most of it's going to become automated, right, with less input and less knowledge needed from the traders themselves, I feel that, for example, being a trader maybe is less important than it was like 10, 15 years ago. And the way it is, I feel, if someone is in trading, for example, just so to continue this topic with trading, I feel that, they should focus more on the product side. Why? Because at least they have the knowledge, expertise of that aspect of the trading department, which they can transfer to the product side to be able to build better products and to help with trying to get things from the other side rather than being just the actual users of this specific product. It opens new doors as well.
Yeah, it opens new doors and it starts new conversation, and it opens your mind for thinking differently regarding every aspect of only what you are focused on that moment, but at the same time understanding what you might be focused in future. So that's really relevant. By the way, the funny part is that every time that, for example, we are reaching out to different people to host on the program, sometimes I reach out, sometimes, most of the times, our producers reach out. So when they send me your profile, I went there and it instantly hit me. This guy should know something about personal branding because he has such a good content. He's such a good commentator on other posts as well. He has more than 20K connections. So this guy must be expert in that thing, and that is something that I'm always missing out on. So I never have concentrated on that, and I know that it's a long game and I have never started. Maybe you can little bit inspire me to do that and also inspire other people to do that, because that is really big icebreaker for me, and I have experienced it in a bad way because nobody knows sometimes when I approach them who I am and what I do. So maybe little bit inspiration from you that I need to start personal branding as well?
Yeah.
And what you've learned?
Yes, yes. So first of all, to me, branding, especially in this industry, not just in this industry, but especially in this industry, is extremely important, especially with all the conferences that we have, basically almost every week. Having a personal brand means that people, when you go to these conferences, especially, they recognize you without you having to approach them, right? They know who you are, and subsequently they know who you represent. And the fact that people know you, it also means that people understand who you are, and they actually end up trusting who you are and what you say, especially when you're trying to convince them with regards to certain solutions or products that you might want to them. The thing is this, how it works. I mean, when we go to conferences, I realize, sometimes people do stop you, ask you, hey, look, I follow you on LinkedIn, I saw your post, and like that, obviously you would not know them. I mean, having so many followers, it's possible to remember everyone who you speak to and so on. But the funny thing is, I really started pushing for the personal brand. I think it was around 4 years ago, right? Something like that. I was in my previous company, and we were in Malta with a conference, but it wasn't one of the side events in the evening. And when we were entering an event, I don't remember which one it was, I was with my CEO back then and our CBO. And one guy came to me and told me, "Hey, I follow your, your LinkedIn post, and I really like what you do, and I just wanted to come say hello because I never met you before in person." And as soon as he left, my CEO turned on to me. He told me, "Wow, you should really become an influencer in this industry because people really seem to know you." And, that made me think, if people, even me, I don't even try to push this, right? And people still, stop you and they know you and they recognize you and therefore they know who you work with and it helps your company. I said, maybe, I should start pushing this aspect. And in fact, since then I started doing more posts, trying to be more visible, especially on these social media like LinkedIn, which is, I think, an extremely important vehicle. And I do believe, yes, personal branding leads not only for your branding, but even for your company's branding. So it's important because that helps to push the company's brand. So yes, do it. Absolutely.
Yeah, I have to convince myself to start it. Like last 2 years or 3 years ago, I had the challenge that I would share anything like twice a week, and I held the challenge for 3 months, but later like all the different work hit me on the top of my head, and I could remembered what I have to do for the personal branding. But that still helped me during the time. By the way, I grew my connections, like 800 connections were added during 3 months, and that was like my biggest spike during all those years that I have the LinkedIn for any, like for business purposes most of the time, right? For the connections and follow-ups and
Yeah.
so on. So, and I think
Yeah.
that
No, go ahead, go ahead.
no, I think that is the part that always stresses me out, that why didn't I follow it? So it's
Yeah.
always like I have to start it over, but I think that I'll hit it.
Yeah, now that I'm hearing, actually, I remembered another story because I love a challenge, and I remember, during that time, at that time that during that when we had that conference, and my CEO told me to do that. I remember during the conference itself, I was talking to someone, and he was like, wow, I managed to hit 500,000 impressions for a whole year on LinkedIn. And I looked on mine because I had no idea, and it said like something like 200, 250. And I said, okay, this is the challenge. I want to reach not only 500,000. I want to reach. I want to beat that. I want to reach, maybe quarter, 3/4 of a million or something. Yes, now I'm at a point where, on a yearly basis, in the past year, I've reached 1.2 million impressions. So I realize, yes, how important it is and how big, and the influence this whole thing is for, and it helps us in this industry.
Yeah, it really opens up many doors for you and for your company that you stand behind. And I remember that. You remember the time when most of the Apple was just Steve Jobs doing
Yeah.
his events. That is like good indicator that somebody is more recognizable than brand itself.
Yeah.
The brand then follows, and that is really important. And from my previous, let's say, experience and previous job and previous career, that is what we were doing. And we sometimes forget that we are a brand itself, and we have to focus and we have to build it from bottom up and always nurture it until it becomes so big that you can then hire a ghostwriter and write everything, your content and everything for you. Okay, that's good. By the way, I think that is one of my favorite things to ask right now. As far as you are now in B2B side of the things, how is acquisition for you? How branding and personal branding made acquisition for you easier? And was it like an eye opener for others as well right now after 4 years?
Acquisition, I mean, it still is not that easy. However, what helps, yes, in this, we use, the personal branding innovation there, is that sometimes, I don't need to always be chasing, people or clients. I will get, they actually do come themselves because they know, hey, Glenn, listen, I know you work, with that platform provider. Can you, and obviously that's a kickstarts a conversation. Because yes, some people, they might say, okay, if there's an operator who are looking for a platform, yes, they start looking with their network, say, okay, who should I speak to? Who are the companies I should approach?
And you come to top of the mind.
Yes, especially if they see a post of mine, on on LinkedIn or something, so it's easier. I have you could have that's kind of advantage. Doesn't mean that, you are gonna get clients just because the lead generation works better or because they are coming to you. But at least, it's still an advantage that you should be taking full chance on.
Okay, understood. So I promise that I will start it and I will make the promise personally for
Yeah.
you.
Tell how it goes
This is
then.
this is a trick, by the way, that I was taught by one of my mentors, that you have to make a promise to somebody and that person will hold you responsible to withhold your promises. So that's really cool. It really helped me to quit smoking, for example, like 3 years ago. I made a promise and I uphold it every day to that person. And that person was the one that like just checked in every month, first every week, then every month, just how are you doing? Is everything going okay? And yeah, it gets you into the right mindset that you promise this person rather than that you promise yourself. That is really bad about the psychology. You can rather promise somebody else and uphold it rather than you promise yourself. So that is really good trick that I
So
was
you're gonna
learning.
promise it to me, this?
Yeah, of course. And I'll follow up after I will share the screenshots of my impressions to you after 1 month and let's
All
see
right.
where it goes and let's see how it grows. I think that from my point of view, when I'm talking with a person representing one of other verticals of the industry, I'm always keen to learn more about it because as you know, like from the industry and from the other people, most of the time we are approached and ask the questions that we don't know the answers for. And sometimes that question is, where should I start? I want to start a casino. What should I do? You worked in iGaming, right? And I'm like, yeah, but you know how big iGaming is, and I'm trying to explain from there. So I have like really basic understanding of things, and I'm always approaching the guests that way. Explain to me what is best for what purposes. So there are different solutions, right? You can go buy an open source and build it upon there. You can go turnkey, you can go white label, and there are also other many varieties of it. But always for me, like where should we as a startup or where should as I person that I'm holding like a pretty sum of money and I want to get into the industry start from. So
Yeah.
what is your advice there? And also just give us some insights regarding different approaches.
So if you want to start off as, as an operator,
Mhm.
the sort of easiest way to get into the iGaming sector is through via a white label solution. What do we mean by white label solution? Is that you get basically from a platform provider everything done for you, prepared for you. They're taking care of everything for you, including the license. You'll be using their own license and everything that goes along with it. The only thing that you need to worry about is the branding. You choose the branding that you want to do for your own website and the marketing as in acquisition. So you need to get as a traffic yourself for the website. Now, it is difficult. It's not easy. Let's be honest. I mean, because obviously, especially if someone new who might not know the market too well and to manage to get, the traffic. But if one studies well enough and knows exactly who to speak to, who to ask for direction, especially with regards to achieving traffic for specific regions they want to work in. It's doable. What I would suggest as a tip for these startups, in fact, is first of all choose your platform wisely. Okay, don't just look at features because everyone is able to tell these are our features. The problem is that sometimes companies, small startups, they like to go for these bigger names company, which is absolutely fine. However, don't expect that you're gonna get the same support, the same roadmap, the same ability to scale, right? That a smaller company would give you. Why? Because you would be, for a bigger company, you would be just a small dot in
You
what
would
is
be just
otherwise.
another company, another client
Yes,
for
not
them.
just a small fish, in a sea of bigger fish, which they are obviously taking care of and catering for. Whereas a mid to smaller company, obviously having less clients, having less, more time to be able to help you out, they could, give you that extra push, and attention which you might lack from bigger companies. Doesn't mean that they might be better or whatever, but having more attention, you can help each other grow both together at the same time. As in fact, the thing is this as well, as we said, marketing, the acquisition part is important and that will be very, very important. But it's not just about user acquisition. Nowadays, people seem to love, the whole storytelling, community, player trust. They want to be feel part of the whole of a group of people, of a community, rather than just being there just to go to a website and just bet for once and that's it.
As I understand, the easiest way is to start with Turnkey, right? So you get
No, no, with white
everything.
label.
So white label, sorry, yeah.
White label.
Is the next level that we will talk about. So white label, you get everything, you are set up. So basically how much time it takes? Like you mentioned like big frames, small frames, and I think that will be different there as well, right? For example, if you approach the giant companies that are platform providers, it might take up to 6 months, right? But what's the different timelines for big and small here and what is your
No, a white label, most companies, they
Mhm.
sort of guarantee that they can get you all set up and ready, by 8 weeks, basically. Right? I mean, obviously, depending on on your, how much you can help them out with the branding, because obviously they are waiting from you all these things and so on and so forth. I mean, just to start, but doesn't mean that you're gonna be making money from
Yeah,
from the
day
go
zero.
ahead. I mean,
Yeah,
it
yeah, of
takes
course.
takes a while. As you said, we need to acquire traffic, and it's a really difficult situation. It's very challenging for all companies, starting off because there are so many operators out there.
Yeah,
So it's not the
and
competition
everybody
is
is
high.
competing with everyone, and everybody wants to
The
stand out.
competition is extremely high, and
Yeah.
that's not so easy.
One thing. So we covered turnkey, so white label. So I'm now mixing them up. So not to mix them up, let's differentiate them as well. So what's different for turnkey, and what is its advantage, and how much does the turnkey solution take to go live with? And it is not recommended from startups, from what I understood, right? So it's more like a more matured business should go into the turnkey.
Turnkey, I would say it's more for already existing companies, right? Who want maybe to set foot maybe who basically have a license in the specific country they want to move to go to expand in, or they have enough money, they have to initial investment, more investment. Because obviously it means Turkey usually that the company would be taking care of the managed services, their own managed services. They would be focusing on all the aspects of the company. Whereas white label, it would be the platform provider would be taking care of managed services and helping out with all the different departments. So you don't have to worry about these things. So Turnkey usually is ideal for companies which are already established, and therefore they have already most departments set in, so they don't need help from the thing, and they can focus on the internal resources for help there. Obviously, this means that the platform provider would ask less royalty fees.
Okay, so that was my next question. So commercially, I think for like fast go market, it's white label, and for more like let's say advanced matured companies that are already having their own licenses, they want to reduce the fees and so on and so on. It's more like a turnkey.
And it would be more customized for their needs as well. Whereas white
Okay.
label, obviously, it would be more, a lot of companies have, like one's sort of, most platforms, skins, they would be the same for everyone, and they set it out. So it's easier to set it up accordingly.
Yeah, from my point of view, I have seen so many platforms, so many brands, and so many skins that I instantly can recognize on which
For the
platform this
platform.
operator
Yes.
works. And
Even I.
yeah, and all my coworkers are always amazed. Why do you know it? Because like I have seen it, I have done my research. I was
It's
always
just a
looking
change
for
of colors, maybe, right?
just changing of the colors and maybe name. It does not change pretty much anything. So
Yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
okay. So I think that for the startup, it's really good insight to just take a white label and start and see how they are managing their traffic, retention, payment, and everything. And if they get their teeth in it and they feel that they are going well, then transfer to it. And maybe like last boss should be an open source that you want to develop your own, have your all the customization and everywhere.
Even
And
then,
that
you
way,
need a lot of investment. So yes,
lots of it.
for
Yeah.
startups, yes, it's not ideal.
Yeah, I think that if everybody had their own platform, I think my startup would die and nobody would take the gamification software as a third party for that. And I think that it's good how it is because everybody wants to stand out from the competition, and that is where like people like and companies like us come in as well. Okay, as far as one thing is interesting for me as well is that I know that you live on Malta, right? So you've been there for lots of years. So for those people that only know the beautiful part of it and only know the stories that it is beautiful and everything, can you also tell us about the other side or a different side of Malta, or discuss how lifestyle is different for those who have been experiencing this for whole lot years?
Yeah, well, obviously, like each country, each and every country, there are the pros and cons. And what could be pro for someone could be a con for another. Just to give you an example, for example, there are lots of people who love summer here, because of the sun, the beach, and so on and so forth. But there is also people who hate summer because of the sun and because it gets really hot, and you can, unless you stay under the AC, it can get quite tough to manage to stay to live in this kind of heat. Same thing for the size. I mean, Malta is a pretty small island, right? And we're almost, I think, 600,000 people here, so it can get quite overcrowded. So
Especially during the
yes,
events, and there are lots of events, and going somewhere during the event is a nightmare. And I think that people living there would feel that nightmare much more rather than just the visitors and so on and so on. Okay.
that's one thing. In fact, that includes traffic as well. It's one of the biggest issues in Malta. But
But
to be fair, overall, I think, most people I speak to, especially foreigners, there are those who don't maybe, enjoy it so much and they might return. But a lot of them, stay here. They say, they prefer to what they have in their country. I don't know. It's all personal taste. And what I really like here is the fact that now, especially because of the iGaming industry, it became so metropolitan, Malta. You get to meet so many different people, different cultures. It's always something, you always meet someone interesting to speak to. They tell country, back then, I can tell you before 20 years ago, it was mainly Maltese people living here. So there wasn't that much,
by the way, do you have a story like that? You met somebody in a pub and later they became a partners or they became a clients or future prospects? Because I think that lots of people that are working there are going to the same bar as well.
There are also events almost on a monthly basis here for iGaming, and I can say that in each and every single event that we do, that is not including the conferences, you get to meet always someone, and end up saying, okay, let's catch up next few days to discuss this and that, because I honestly, every single event you go to, you get to meet someone, because someone introduces you to someone new, and because they say, hey, I think these guys might be interesting for you guys, and everyone knows each other here in Malta, so connecting with people or someone introducing you to someone that might be of interest for you is always always up. That's why networking is very important, and it's always good to go to these conferences and to these events, because honestly you might pay a lot of money to do some adverts on social media or the web or whatever, but the best way is how to meet people, how to meet people involved is when you meet them face to face.
Exactly, and I'm always saying it's much better invested to like travel and expenses cost rather than pouring them into the marketing and doing there, because even like meeting 10 people is much more valuable for you rather than like making an impression on 10,000
Yeah.
just for these purposes only. Okay, so as far as we are coming to the point that our tradition has to hit us, and the tradition is pretty straightforward. So we always ask our guests to have a blind question for the next one. And for you, Nukzar prepared a question based on he's a casino CEO. So his question was, what is your prediction for the next year for the price of the Bitcoin?
Okay, so my answer is not an investment suggestion for anyone.
Of
Okay,
course.
so
Yeah,
don't
let's say all the disclaimers, like it's not financial advice, please don't invest or do
exactly. I want
something
the
like that.
disclaimer written down there.
Yeah,
Yes.
I
No,
will ask producer to do that.
but jokes aside, I think at the rate it's going, it will stay over 100,000 for sure. Maybe it reaches 120, let's say. I mean, there's a good chance. Things are going quite well. I think there's more trust, it seems, right, in Bitcoin than what it was maybe 1 or 2 years ago, when it was half the amount that it was now, half the price it was now.
Okay, nice. So more than 120, I will say like that. So Glenn, the tradition is like that. You have to leave the question for the next guest, which I don't even know who he or she will be.
All right. So I want to make it a bit, fun, but also interesting at the same time. So I'm gonna ask this: if your career had a theme song, what would it be and why?
Okay, that's really fun, and they have to think about it on the spot. So that will
Yeah.
be interesting from them to hear what they. Okay, nice. Okay, let's wrap this up, Glenn. It was pleasure speaking with you. Thank you
Same
for
here.
all the insights, and it was really nice to meet you as well. To remind everybody, you can listen to us on any platform of your choosing, and this was iGaming Accent brought to you by SBC Eurasia, and see you just in 2 weeks. Cheers.